Hi, VJ Benski here with a tutorial on how to connect Midi to Xnth. This is a comprehensive Midi tutorial, and I've decided to use my Novation Xstation 25 for this tutorial for a number of reasons that I hope become clear by the end of this tutorial. Okay, so let's get started. I've now plugged in my Xstation keyboard, and the first thing I need to do is just check that the keyboard has been set up properly. I need to run this Xstation editor, and I'll just go no thanks, file, open, Xstation template. Okay, so this is basically what my Novation Xstation keyboard looks like. I've picked this keyboard today because it has a variety of sliders, dials, and keys. It also has some buttons, and even a modulated joystick, if you like, and a touchpad. As you can see, this keyboard really has all the different types of MIDI inputs, outputs you can imagine. So I think it's a perfect example to show you the range of things you could do with Xnth using a MIDI controller. To set up the controller, we need to first make sure that our dials that we wish to use are on the right settings. So to do this, I pick any dial. In this case, I've picked the one here. And I go to Edit Selection, and I get this control settings. You need to make your dials, and it's the same for sliders, set to be a CC type. I believe this is control change type. There are a few other options that are available, but CC is the one that you need to select. Select the MIDI channel that you want it to operate on. Xnth will allow you to use one MIDI channel for all your devices at a time. You can switch inside Xnth to other MIDI channels if you have different setups for different reasons. Yet, when you're working with Xnth, it only accepts one MIDI channel at a time. You need to give your CC number. This is a unique number for the controller. In this instance, I've selected 12. Snapshot value, you leave that at 0. High value, 127, which in MIDI terms is 100%. And a low value of 0, again in MIDI terms is 0%. You do not have to worry about this pot pickup. And the display format is 0 to 127. It's important that you make this selection. Okay, and just go through all the other ones. Check that they're the same. Add an extra number onto your CC number. Same. 14. Same. Sliders. CC. Same. Same. Oh, and we can modify the joystick. And again, it needs to be a CC. Again, you need to pick a CC number, and it's the high and low values. Trackpad, same deal. It's a CC change. Pick a number, high, low, display format 0 to 127. Okay, and that pretty much concludes all the variable controller functions. If you have tap buttons, they have a velocity sensitivity as well. You can use those. However, on this Xstation keyboard, the buttons here, such as these ones along the bottom, do not have a velocity. They're simply a click button. So if we go to the assigning of them, edit, I change these to a note on and off. These are not a CC. These are not a program change. They are a note on off. Select the MIDI channel. Of course, it's 1 in this case. Pick a note number. This is important. If you're using a keyboard which has the keys, you have to pick note numbers that are not used by your current octave. Personally, I like to use the very, very far left, the very lowest numbers. So I use the first from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A velocity 0, no velocity. And here's the next really important thing, that the button type must be momentary. You want the button to last as long as your finger's on it, and that's all. Close that. Edit selection. Again, note on and off. MIDI channel 1, number, the next number up, and button type momentary. Note on and off, button type momentary. Save that and upload it to your keyboard. I don't need to upload it because it's already on my keyboard, so I'm just going to press exit. And no, I don't need to make changes. Okay, so simply now load Xnth. Load your environment. I made a new one with the color blue today, so I'm going to load that. Okay, come into the CFG screen. Zoom in, check here, MIDI channel 1, it is my X station. So I know that the MIDI is now connected correctly to Xnth. Another place I can check that is over here in the MIDI preview. If I make some changes now with my controller, you can see that my sliders and my dials are making adjustments on the MIDI preview window. So it's all working well. I'm going to press play and come over to the run screen and do my first basic MIDI assigning. MIDI works with Xnth and MIDI learn mode. If you're familiar with that, this is going to be a breeze for you. If you're not, this is how it works. Essentially, click on the MIDI button here. Notice the green box that's around it now. That means MIDI has been activated, and this is the look that you're after. While this green box is on, it's critical that you assign the MIDI and then quickly turn it off. If you start messing around with the keyboard while this is on, you could mess up your MIDI settings. So without further ado, I'll start assigning some buttons. And you assign the button. Let's say I want to assign this preset cue here. I just hover over it with the mouse, press the first key on my keyboard, and the next key, next key, next key, next key, next key, and next key, next key, next key, next key, next key, and next key, next key, next key, next key. So I now have all of these presets assigned to the MIDI controller. You can tell the ones that haven't been assigned, they don't have this green box. And I will now turn off the MIDI learn. The green boxes are gone, but I can now jump around. I'll just add a little transition here. I can now jump around from one preset to the other simply by pressing the key on my keyboard. Next, I'll show you how to use these sliders, joystick, and the trackpad. These are assignable in 3D space. Oh, just by the way, while we're talking about it, Xnth can assign MIDI to anything you can click on. So if it's a button that you can click on, you can assign MIDI to it in exactly the same way. Just hover over it and press one of the keys on your keyboard. And it's as simple as that. For this next lot of MIDI where you want to use variables, you need to do this in the 3D page. So if you click on 3D and come down to the modulators, you'll see these green MIDI button again. That's a clue that this is MIDI is actioning from here. So let's pick a preset. Just pick one here. They've got one called color that I want to use. Color groove. Okay. Right, so inside color groove we have a number of modulators, and these are essentially where Midi is connected to. We'll just first of all turn off camera over here, the X axis, and we'll just move that around a little bit. And you can see, oh, you probably can't see. Let's get rid of the interface for a moment. Come over here to the CFG page, turn down the interface, bring it down to 0. Come back into 3D. Okay, now we have a chance. Come over here to the X, and you can see how we're able to move this 3D shape. Well, we're actually not moving the shape. We're moving the camera left, right, and we have the Z, which I'll turn off as well. And we have up and down. So what we need to do is we need to pick some parameters. So let's say that's 167 and minus 170. Okay, so first of all, let's pick an empty modulator channel, say with channel 10, and I will assign this to the joystick. So I just have to wriggle it a little bit. Now I click Midi, and I double click on channel, and it has assigned it. I can press enter or click away, and now I have the ability to slide from one side of the slider to the other. You can see here, MIDI channel 10, you can see that the brightness, this is all the way to the left, and then now it's all the way to the right. And that's how you can tell that it's working here. So the next task is I need to assign modulation 10 to the x-axis. So if I click 10 now, that's assigned, and I want to make these minus 127, or 170 rather, so I'm just going to pull this down. In fact, it's easier to just double click, type it, minus 170. And plus 170. Okay, and now when I move my slider, I'm moving the camera. Another cool feature of this keyboard is it has the joystick has an up and down. So we'll pick a new channel. We'll go with channel 11. We'll select MIDI, and I'll wriggle the keyboard. Double click channel. It's now assigned. Click it off. And we'll just check again here. Let's see how high we want to go. Let's say that's full height. That's 230. And minus 150. So we want to go 230 and minus 150. In fact, that doesn't look right. I'm going to do it the other way around. Minus 150. In fact, minus, whoops, it's minus 200 is what we need. And plus 150. Okay, now when I move my joystick up, let's go a little bit higher. So I'll increase this value here. Okay, and now I have the possibility to move the camera left, right, up and down, all via MIDI. So if you're a musician, and I'll just hide the interface for you now, spacebar, and you're wanting to set a wobble up based on an oscillation from your bass or from another part of your music, you could easily do it this way. That MIDI value could instead of be from my controller, it could be from from your music audio program. Okay. The next concept I'd like to show you, we just need to turn off 10 and X and Y here. Bring these back to 0. And it's a rotation possibility, so I'm just going to put a little bit of interface up. Okay. And not this one. Z, here we go. Okay, so again, we'll use MIDI channel 12. Just wriggle the dial. Click on MIDI. Double click on channel. It's accepted the dial. I can check it. Yes, the light's flashing as I move this dial now. And I want to assign it to the rotation. And simple as that. An interesting addition to the MIDI is the effect of this phase box here. A low number with a low modifier number does the smooth transition. Now, if I increase the phase, notice the change. It starts to jump. So just be aware if you find you need a different feel from your MIDI slider or dial, then the phase could be a useful factor for you. If I greatly increase this value, the value of the modifier, you'll see as I turn the dial all the way to the right and all the way to the left, if I reduce the phase, you'll see it's much smoother. It really depends on the nature of how you want the action of your MIDI work to happen. So essentially you can use these variable controllers, sliders, dials, joysticks, whatever, anywhere that you see these blue spheres. So you have the camera, you have all the way through these modifiers in this 3D scenes, which I will cover in another tutorial. We also have it in lighting and in the background colors. It's possible to use up to 16 variable MIDI controls per scene. And the MIDI data is saved into the scene when you save the environment. So if I want to keep all this MIDI data here that we have, the quick presets and the variable controls, I simply do an environment save after. So let's say Optrix version 2 MIDI. Press enter, click save. And now those control values and locations are saved into my environment. If I load, and click on MIDI, you'll see that all this MIDI assigning is still connected. And the 3D scene data has also saved in here. Remember, click off MIDI when you no longer need to do a control change. And that's it. Enjoy. I'm Benski. Thanks for watching.